What's going on, everybody? It is segment 2. We have the fantastic Michael Zuber from One Rental at a Time. Mike, how's it going for segment 2? Ready?
I'm ready, man. This is an important one. This could happen to anyone at any time for any reason.
And I think it's going to start happening more often. I think it's going to start happening more often. In the next 12 months, I think we're going to see a lot more of these than we've seen in the last probably few years. So what we're talking about is the bank yank, which is
the bank yank.
You are about to close on your property and you didn't really understand what the clause was that said you need to get that final financial commitment letter. And it's usually a few days before closing. And usually that couple of days before closing, it's usually a non-event. But I just had it happen to me, which was 3 days before we were supposed to close. I got the dreaded email from the bank saying, we will not be closing this transaction with you. We are not going to finance this property. And I'm like, what the what?
Really? That's an option?
That's a problem.
Yeah.
So the good news is we'll talk about it a little bit later, how all that stuff came together. But Mike, why would a bank do something as silly as such?
Well, so that's a great question. And there could be a myriad of reasons, right? One of the things you need to realize is, final approval, final approval. None of that stuff is truly final until the money is funded.
True.
I have actually had deals that were literally ready to push the wire, right? The transfer and stop the deal, right? So after complete final approval, banks get nervous. And banks could get nervous for any number of reasons, right? I interviewed Anna Kelly the other day, who was buying a beachfront $1 million property, had final approval. She makes me look small, which gives you a size of what Anna owns. And she had a bank decide no. And the problem was she was fishing in a pond where there were not a lot of lenders. Mm-hmm. And at the time, there were 3 named storms in the Gulf Coast. And the lender's like, insurance. Yeah, it's like, oh, man, this may be the wrong time to kind of, be a brand new lender on this. And they pulled it. I mean, like the day of funding, which, on a significant transaction like that could blow everything up, because at that point, think about it. The seller is likely already packing up and getting ready.
That's right.
Right. So, she was able to get around it. She had to pay a little bit more money and that's just, who she is. But the banks can pull it for any reason, and they won't tell you. No. And if they do tell you, they'll lie to you. Because again, I've been working in this industry for a long time. I've sold to financial clients. Some of my biggest customers are financial institutions, and the files, right? They have daily meetings, which usually are non-event rubber stamps. But somebody somewhere whispers in somebody's ears that it could be like this: China, Evergrande, $300 billion. How much exposure do we have? Yes. Oh, shoot. We have $25 million in exposure that we did not have in our risk profile. We better not. Anything that is risky, we don't want to do. And it could just be a timing issue. Yep. It could be, hey, Evergrande's a risk we don't know, so they're going to go investigate it. But if your loan was coming to the table that day, they're like, nope, no more risk. But sometimes it's like if it were to come 2 weeks later after they evaluated and realized they had counterparty and they passed it on to somebody else, like, okay, do the loan. But you got to remember, right? Banks are really what they are is risk arbitrage. That's really what they're doing. Right? They're borrowing. They're paying you nothing, and they're trying to get 10 to 1 on your money. But when they see abnormal risk, they hit pause on everything. So
100%. And I think what was interesting about this property is I had gotten that letter. So obviously I pick up the phone and I say, okay, why? Because I got the email and I was like, yeah, I'm not just going to email you back. You better get on the phone with me.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
We're going to have a conversation.
Exactly. We're going to have what I like to call a talkie talk.
A talkie talk.
So we had the talkie talk and I just said, what is going on? And they said, well, the appraiser, swear to God, these guys we're going to have problems. So the appraiser said it is a C5 property. A C5 property is a condition that he then says it needs between $25,000 and $100,000 worth of work.
Wow.
So to know how full of crap you are, anybody can walk a property and you can never say it needs 25 to 100K worth of work, because if you are that bad at what you're doing, you will go out of business. Because 100K versus 25K is a 400% increase in spend over what it is, and can obviously make the project a complete and total loser. The other crazy thing too is that people were living in this home. It was not that bad. They were living actively in this home. The problem that they had is that they had had a roof leak. They had fixed the roof. They had proof of fixing the roof. They had not fixed the interior plaster and the water stains. So he starts going off on a tangent because he's an appraiser, not an inspector. Appraiser.
Yeah, I've had that happen. Yeah.
And he starts going mental about how there's this and it's structurally not sound. And it's like, I swear to God, if one more appraiser says something is structurally not sound, it's like, it's literally like me giving my opinion on, you know, the Mahjong match happening in South Korea right now. I have no clue. I don't know what I'm talking about. I would never foster an opinion because I don't know. But appraisers love to give their opinion when they know nothing.
Yeah. And just on that standpoint, I had a property one time where an appraiser wrote mold, which is like a dirty, like a four.
It is a 4-letter word.
It is. Absolutely. It killed the deal. And it wasn't mold, obviously. It was a bathroom, and there's a thing called mildew.
That's right.
When it's hot and you don't open the window or use the vent, you can get mildew. And it wasn't even a lot of mildew. It was like it was a little 6-inch squares or 4-inch squares. It's like a 4x6 area. Yeah. It took like 7 seconds to wash off.
Exactly.
Because I read the report. I'm like, shit, mold. I didn't see mold. I mean, good. I'm like, first off, I'm thinking, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to, I might back out of the deal.
Mm-hmm.
Worst case, I'm going to get a credit because, at this point, mold, like everything is black mold, right? I'm like, oh my God, the world's ended. So of course I go there all hazmated up, right? I'm like, show me the mold. I want to learn something, right? And for me, this is a freaking 2.5-hour drive, right? Yeah, I'm driving on the weekend to learn. And so the guy's nice enough to meet me there. And this is before smartphones where you could have taken a picture or a video. Right? Sure. So I drive there the next day, and he points at it, and I'm like, I'm missing. I'm looking in the wrong area. Where is it? And he goes, right there. I'm going, that shit's in my bathroom. It's called mildew, dumbass. Why are you freaking writing mold on the thing? I'm like, give me some freaking, disinfectant, wipe it off.
Yeah.
So he had, and that now, because it was mildew, not mold, he has to go explain his ass for like 3 weeks. It almost killed the deal.
Yes.
Because he reused that 4-letter word. Oh, yes. It was, the bank wanted, it was terrible. Like, are you being pressured? Is this, that, it was bad. It was bad.
Well, so this blew up my deal from the perspective that we could no longer finance it through the bank.
Yeah, of course.
They had already bought another home. They were waiting to close literally the same day as when we were going to close. Yeah, this was 3 days ago.
Yeah.
Sorry. And so what did we have to do? Our only option was, they said, well, we'll have to delay it 30 days, which I couldn't do that to these poor people. It wasn't their fault that this appraiser was an idiot.
Yeah.
And so thankfully, with having done all these refis, I just had to write a check. So I wrote a check, but what we were able to do is go back to the seller and just say, hey, at the end of the day, it's a C5 property. Clearly it needs more work than what we expected. And we were able to get a 5-6% credit. So,
and you cut a check, everybody wins.
Yeah.
Everybody wins.
So it didn't blow up the deal. It could have, but had it not been one of the, 3 out of 100 people can actually write a check for that house.
Yeah.
So had I not been that person, 1 out of 30 people that can just write the check for this particular type of an asset, the deal would have blown up. And this appraiser, because he's completely uninformed, doesn't understand what he's doing, and doesn't truly care about what lives he's impacting.
He doesn't understand the ripple.
You don't understand what you're doing to everybody involved in the deal. And at the end of the day, it was a complete and total waste of everyone's time. These poor people, Mike, they're buying their retirement home.
Yeah.
And like all the stress that this guy caused. So if you're an appraiser, do your job, but don't do anyone else's. You're not a structural engineer. You're not anything.
You're not a mold person.
Yeah. Like ask for follow-up or ask better questions so you understand that it's no longer an issue and that it's been accounted for in the price. That's why I wasn't buying the price of the property at market.
Yeah. Or just start saying, get second opinion or get licensed professional.
Something.
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 Yeah.
Don't
I
take it
still
upon
I
yourself.
still remember that. I remember the phone call. I remember reading the report, calling him, going, "Oh my God, I can't buy this product." I remember the feeling. And then when I got there, I'm like, I have this in my house.
Yeah.
My daughter's bathroom has this because she doesn't use the freaking vent. This is not mold.
Yes, exactly. You're like, hey, Olivia, can you go in her bathroom and just take a picture of the ceiling so I can show this appraiser what mildew looks like?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like, brutal. Damn. Mike, how can everybody find you, my friend?
One rental at a time, book, YouTube channel, Instagram, and website.
So as I always say, we spend a ton of time putting this content together and opening up and sharing our complete transparent lives to you.
Yeah.
This is exactly what happened to me. We literally just closed this morning, but this was the bullshit I was dealing with all week long, trying to get this thing done because somebody decided to get Happy Pen and start writing opinions based on no facts, figures, or actually understanding what was going on. Yeah. So as I always ask, please make sure you subscribe, give us a thumbs up, make sure you do the same for Mike, one rental at a time. And we will catch you in segment 3 where the real fun begins. Thanks, Mike.